Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to International Law Weekend 2021, or welcome to ILW 2021 if you're joining us for the first time. This is day 3 of an extraordinary feast of panels, keynote addresses, discussions, networking groups. And today is day 3, but it is absolutely, I think, in some ways, the highlight of the conference, because not only do we begin with our awards and a distinguished keynote address, but our 99th annual members meeting will be held immediately following Prosecutor Bensouda's address. And that address will end around 9:45 Eastern time. You'll have to leave this session and go to the members session, and everybody can come to hear about other awards and the business of ABILA, but you can have to join a different link. So I'd just like to thank, before we start today's event, I would like to thank again our diamond sponsors, Arbitration Place, White & Case LLP, and Debevoise & Plimpton. I'd like to thank especially our team at Arbitration Place, who's been with us now for 3 days and still continuing. Remember, there is a help desk if you're having a problem. The entire organizing committee, all of our sponsors, our media officer, Ruxar Azameh, our membership officer and ILW administrator, Madeline George, and really everybody who makes the weekend possible. I'm going to now move to the main event, which is, of course, our distinguished keynote, which is going to be given by the former chief prosecutor, Ms. Fatou Bensouda of the International Criminal Court. And after my address, after my introduction of Prosecutor Bensouda, Jennifer Trahan, one of our co-director studies and chair of our Outstanding Achievement Award Committee, will present Prosecutor Bensouda with an award. So on the 12th of December of 2011, Ms. Fatou Bensouda of the Gambia was elected by consensus as the chief prosecutor of the International Criminal Court by the Assembly of States Parties. She was sworn in on June 15th of 2012. She had previously held the position of ICC deputy prosecutor, having been elected with an overwhelming majority by the ASP in 2004 and serving as such until May 2012. Prior to coming to the International Criminal Court, she worked as a legal advisor and trial attorney at the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda in Arusha, Tanzania, rising to the position of senior legal advisor and head of the legal advisory unit. And before that, she was general manager of a leading commercial bank in the Gambia and successively senior state counsel, principal state counsel, deputy director of public prosecutions, solicitor general, and legal secretary of the Republic, and the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, in which capacity she served as legal advisor to the President and Cabinet of the Republic of the Gambia. Ms. Bensouda also took part in negotiations on the Treaty of Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, the West African Parliament, and the ECOWAS Tribunal. She has served as a delegate to the United Nations Conferences on Crime Prevention, the African Unity's ministerial meetings on human rights, and as a delegate of the Gambia to the meetings of the Preparatory Commission for the International Criminal Court. On a more personal note, I was privileged to serve as her special advisor on crimes against humanity during her tenure as chief prosecutor, and I personally witnessed her dedication to her job, her ability to persevere in the face of US sanctions, difficult state non-cooperation, witnesses being disappeared and killed, and the constant wave of criticism that was directed at the International Criminal Court, no matter what it did. The ICC simply could not do anything right. And throughout it all, Prosecutor Bensouda served her office and the court as a shining inspiration. As part of my role as special advisor, I also got to participate passively in some of the ceremonies that were held on the occasion of her departure from the office. And I can tell you that the superlatives, adjectives, love, affection, respect that Fatou Bensouda engendered by every single person that she met at the office, every person that worked at the ICC, anybody she came in contact to was just overwhelming. They referred to her as Fatou Bomb, a shining inspiration, somebody who really did stand up without fear or favor to take the cases where the law led the office. I can say I witnessed firsthand the most astonishing perseverance and dedication to a job that one could ever ask of anyone. So that is my formal introduction. And now I'm going to turn the virtual podium to Jennifer Trahan, who's going to say a little bit about why Prosecutor Bensouda was chosen to receive the inaugural Outstanding Achievement Award from the International Law Association American Branch. Jennifer, you have the floor.
Thank you, Leila. Well, you definitely stressed some of the superlatives which were behind our choice. Dear Madam Prosecutor, if we were in person, I could hand you an award. Unfortunately, it's been shipped to you, and I don't know if you have it handy. Perhaps you'll be able to hold it up. It is with great, immense pleasure that I, as chair of the Outstanding Achievement Award Committee, which was tasked with selecting the award recipient, present the ABILA Outstanding Achievement Award to you. I can think of no more worthy a recipient. The award is in honor of your immense dedication and contributions over the last 9 years to the work of the International Criminal Court as its second prosecutor. As Leila has already said, you have shown steadfast leadership and courage in what at times were truly difficult circumstances. I am delighted on behalf of the American branch of the International Law Association to present you with the inaugural ABILA Outstanding Achievement Award.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Leila. Thank you, Jennifer. Yeah, it's rare, but I'm both speechless and truly humbled by your kind words and for this most prestigious award bestowed upon me, which I'll confirm that I have received and have it right here. I was trying to hold it up, but somehow I saw that the image was not coming. But President of ABILA, distinguished members of the Board of Directors of ABILA, Chair of the ABILA Nominations Committee, Jennifer, members, friends and colleagues. In expressing my thanks and gratitude for this award, let me first of all pay tribute to the consistent support you have given to the work of the court, to the ICC Office of the Prosecutor in particular, and to me personally throughout my tenure. You have lent support to me and my work unreservedly and constantly through good times and challenging times. Your only interest was that the court would do well, that the office would do well, that I would do well. You stayed true to your convictions. You never allowed yourself to be swayed by geopolitical interests or other interests that are inconsistent with the tenets of the Rome Statute, inconsistent with justice, with the interests of victims or with the rule of law, fairly and objectively applied. For crying out loud, ABILA sued Donald Trump over the executive order on the court and for imposing sanctions on myself and my colleague, Pakiso Mochichoko, for carrying out our legitimate functions. And for this, your firm, unwavering and principled stance, I will forever remain grateful. And this prestigious inaugural award from you today is, to my mind, yet another manifestation of that conviction and steadfastness. I really do wish that the circumstances were different and that I could be with you in person to receive this prestigious award and get a hug or two from you people. But I am grateful to each one of you for being here today. I thank you for your presence. It means much to me. And I'm really touched by your graciousness, your kindness, and your support, the support you have all extended to me during my mandate. and the most moving and generous words in bestowing this honor to me. It would be remiss if I do not express my gratitude to Leila Sadat, who served as my special advisor on crimes against humanity during my tenure. She was always at hand to support the team, and her significant contribution to the work of the office is noteworthy. I equally would take the opportunity to also thank my other special advisors, Diane Marie Aman, Patricia Sellers, Mohammed Ayat, and Tim McCormack. I am grateful for your support. Professor Jennifer Trahan has also been steadfast and unwavering in her convictions to support and defend the work of the office. I am grateful, Jennifer. Thank you all. This field, as you know, may at times feel like a thankless job. And as prosecutor, I was accustomed to being attacked, seeing caricatures of myself posted on social media, being called all sorts of names or accused of all sorts of things. Such onslaughts reached a crescendo, especially in the last few years of my tenure. So this kind acknowledgement is very important to me. In a way, it makes me feel vindicated, and it consolidates my conviction that I was on the right path and doing the right things. Dear colleagues, it has been a ride indeed. Not only me, but undoubtedly also for the office I led for 9 years. What I lived through in the past decade together with colleagues was unique. And I truly believe that we managed to achieve and accomplish together is tremendous. The truth is that this award presented to me belongs not to me alone. I dedicate it to the team I led at the OTP, the partners, yourselves, and the ICC supporters, such as yourselves, together with whom we have been able to achieve so much together in the past 9 years. I truly mean that. I could not have hoped for any of those accomplishments without that significant contribution, always with the objective to advance the cause of international criminal justice. Accountability for atrocity crimes, and with the interests of victims uppermost in our minds. We have demonstrated that we are together in this, and that we, collectively and in partnership, have overcome incredible challenges requiring courage, integrity, and resilience to reach the goals so important for humanity. We found strength and resolve in the truth of our convictions and righteousness to our cause. We found comfort and refuge in our solidarity and common purpose when placed under the most outrageous attempts at political interference and personal threats due to the court's legitimate judicial work. We overcame fear. We withstood attempts to intimidate us by dint of the force of our unity, humanity, and strict professionalism. In short, we overcame vice with virtue. With your unflinching and steadfast support, you helped us over the past decade to take the court to the next level, expanding its work and enhancing its relevance, legitimacy, and credibility. And this remains an immutable truth, no matter what picture is being painted today. This reality is not lost on the genuine and true watchers of the court and the international community. Notwithstanding the realities of the political arena and the changing tides of politics, I truly believe that the court I left at the end of my 9-year mandate in June of 2021, and I dare say the Rome Statute system as a whole, are stronger and more relevant than they were a decade ago. And this is not to say there isn't room for improvement. Of course there is, but truth be told, I see much to be legitimately proud of in the work achieved together with the office I led. This is in no way beating my chest, but I am solid in my personal conviction that the legacy I left is a strong one, a legacy that I can be proud of. So having placed us in the proper conceptual frame, I wanted to thank you all for literally and metaphorically joining me on this exciting, sometimes arduous, but always worthwhile journey. The road we traveled together has been precious, and I sincerely thank you for all your support, encouragement, and contributions. As some of you may be aware, Before the end of my term, I had the honor to be decorated by the government of Senegal, the first state party to ratify the Rome Statute, with the Ordre National du Lion. This is one of the highest civilian honors in Senegal. And most recently, my own country, the Republic of the Gambia, has also announced that they will be awarding me the country's highest civilian honor during an in-person ceremony once I am back in the Gambia. Furthermore, along with the office, we were nominated for 2021 Nobel Peace Prize. Even though we were not ultimately chosen for the award committee, the nomination in and of itself is a great honor and acknowledgement of my work together with my office throughout my 9-year tenure. So I remain humbled and grateful, profoundly grateful for this nomination. They signaled to me that my work, together with colleagues I led, has not been in vain, and that we all value and hold as important virtues the goal of advancing the cause of international criminal justice with dedication, integrity, and great respect. Respect for our important mandate under the statute, respect for each other as colleagues, and indeed for the victims and affected communities for which this institution was fundamentally created. I wanted to seize this occasion to again state that it's something I already stated publicly in response to such gracious recognitions. These recognitions salute a leadership and vision ascribed to me, but they are not singular to me. In fact, they are a recognition of our collective achievements and the impressive work we have been able to accomplish together. They are a tribute, first and foremost, to my able colleagues at the office and across the board more broadly for their devotion and achievements in the service of the Rome Statute. And these recognitions also send a clear message, to me at least, that ultimately, and again, irrespective of political posturing, humanity wants the court to succeed. Humanity wants the court to rise above the status quo and speak truth to power and bring the promise of never again, and law, not war, closer to reality. 9 years ago, when I was sworn in, I had no illusions about the enormity of the task ahead. With this mandate came great responsibility. It requires focus, often self-sacrifice and fortitude. And nine years ago, I stated that justice, real justice, is not a pick and choose system, and that to be effective, to be just, and to be a real deterrent, the Office of the Prosecutor's activities and decisions must be based solely on the law and the evidence. We may operate in a political environment, but our work must be shielded and free from the whims and winds of politics when those strengths are not aligned with our collective obligations under the Rome Statute. During my tenure, I have done my utmost to live by these convictions in the service of the Rome Statute. I have strived throughout my term to honorably and with integrity discharge a complex, multifaceted mandate with independence and impartiality. I have made my decisions with careful deliberations, but without fear or favor. Even in the face of adversity, even at considerable personal cost, I have sought to focus not on the words and propaganda of a few influential individuals whose aim is to evade justice, but rather to listen to the victims who look to the court as a beacon of hope, as the last bastion of justice and accountability for atrocity crimes where the law, their protector, has otherwise fallen silent. And these are not empty words. During my final weeks in office, I undertook one of my last official missions to Sudan and the Darfur region to meet with victims and affected communities. I was again able to see just how important our work really is and how much is riding on the promise of the ICC. Welcome, welcome ICC, the crowd enthusiastically chanted as I, together with my delegation, entered the camps. Their hunger for justice, their hope for a change in their circumstances through justice was loud, it was manifest, it was undeniable. And it was a stark reminder that justice matters, but that we must double down on our efforts to deliver on that promise. notwithstanding the difficulties and challenges, notwithstanding the efforts to derail the legitimate work. The recent events in Sudan could see this hope slowly fading away yet again. As prosecutor, with the help of my team and the changes I undertook at the office were sweeping. We announced and quickly moved to take a number of initiatives concerning strategic direction, organizational management, and internal office culture. I adopted a new prosecutorial strategy with a major shift in how we investigate and build our cases. We enhanced our quality control mechanisms, streamlined and strengthened our administrative procedures, improved transparency in how we conduct our work, and made swift and significant efforts to build a positive office culture. Firstly, by setting up a task force on working climate to provide the best working conditions for staff and encourage a positive climate to work. I also immediately worked on and adopted a code of conduct for the office, which included training of all staff, starting from myself and the deputy prosecutor and senior staff. We further instituted the core values of dedication, integrity, and respect, applicable to every single one of us in the office. I am sure you have seen these values during my tenure pasted across the entire office, at the bottom of every email, and through a relentless focus on understanding what they mean in terms of concrete behaviors, top of my mind for all of us. For these were not just decorative slogans, but standards I strictly applied for my office to live by. During my tenure, I endeavored to strengthen an office that is accountable at all levels, both in terms of performance and professional conduct. During my tenure, I am proud to note the office secured important successes in court and issued important policy papers on strategic priorities we set, from sexual and gender-based crimes to crimes against and affecting children and the protection of cultural heritage. We have lived these policies in practice. We built and expanded the partnership we created with states parties and other actors and stakeholders of the Rome Statute system. All this we did in the most difficult of circumstances, with lack of sufficient budget, a global pandemic, sanctions, and all. Together, we have so much to be proud of. I myself am proud in my conviction that I have left a vastly improved, well-functioning office with many dedicated and resilient staff. I am certain they will continue to be eager and enthusiastic to serve the cause of justice fairly and objectively, as they have always demonstrated to me. As I have already mentioned, today is emphatically not my story alone. Dear friends, it had indeed been a roller coaster ride, and I can laugh or smile about it now, perhaps because I'm just thrilled to be done with it. No, but on a serious note, it has been an absolute privilege to serve and to have traveled through this period of history together with all of you, to bring justice for the sake of countless fellow humans who have suffered. I was not expecting it to be easy, and it has certainly not been easy. But I know in my heart of hearts, no matter the odds, that all times I did everything to protect and to bring to life the goals and values of the Rome Statute. Where I may have fallen short, I can assure you, it was not for lack of trying. I have, however, noted with deep regret that many states parties to the Rome Statute will support the work of the Office of the Prosecutor only when their geopolitical interests are not affected. And I have seen states parties push back on the work of the office if those interests were not served. I have seen attempts to influence my office's work, to intimidate or ignore me when that failed. I have seen some states parties snub me because I did not do what they want me to do, that I did not understand how things work and was not nuanced or receptive or understanding of taking their interest into account. But despite these pressures, both public and private, I never yielded. I did what I am truly convinced was in the interest of the Rome Statute. I am glad and proud of my service in that regard. As I vacated the role of the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court, I left with one fundamental parting advice, that we must all remain firmly principled and vigilant in the service of the Rome Statute. Stay resilient and impervious to political games and posturing. The future and legitimacy of the court depends on it. It is as simple as that. Don't let anyone deceive us, deceive themselves, or deceive you into thinking otherwise. So no matter what the naysayers, the biased and politically interested would say or try to have one believe, I see this award as a vindication and acknowledgement of my work as ICC prosecutor. It tells me that you agree I did the right thing. I worked to the best of my ability at all times, and that I was unwavering in my resolve to execute my mandate without fear or favor. I hope I've not been too long, and I thank you for your attention. I'm looking forward to interacting with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We now have to have a round of virtual applause. Fatou, really, we could not be prouder of you, the work that your office has done. Thank you so much for standing up for the rule of law, really. And it wasn't easy, and it was harder than it should have been in so many different ways. I noticed, I think Jennifer's going to join me on the virtual stage, and we'll maybe ask a few questions. Before I turn to the audience question, there is a question about the kind of advice you might give a young aspiring student, because we have many students here at International Law Weekend. But my question for you is, you are your virtual background is Mali. Which of the many successes, because we talk a lot about the challenges and the difficulties, which of your many successes are you most, not most proud of, but do you think are the most significant, or maybe there's several? Talk to us about some of the positives, because yes, we have heard about many of the challenges.
Yeah, certainly, Leila, this Mali was one of them. You do know the case of Al-Mahdi, and the fact that the office has tried to bring significance to the destruction of cultural heritage, which we all know is a crime against humanity, and which we thought we needed to really highlight that if this kind of crimes are committed, the office will take action, and that's what we did, exactly what we did, and secured a conviction in that regard. I think the message that was sent was that this heritage is for all humanity, not even just for Mali, not even for the African region, but for all of humanity, and that it must be protected at all times, and to send a message that those who destroy it will be held accountable, definitely before an international court or even domestically. So I think this was one of the cases that I'm really proud of today, our work at Mali. But also, as you know me, with respect to sexual and gender-based crimes, I'm truly proud of our work in the Boston Taganda case. Mm. And the fact that we were able to at least push the envelope to show that the perpetrators who also commit these crimes in people in their own camp can be held accountable. As you know, this was not the state of international criminal law, but now, at least with that jurisprudence, I think ICC and the Office of the Prosecutor has contributed to bringing that. And for that also, I would thank you, Leila, very much. I know you worked very closely with us for that, and we were able to bring this before the judges. It was confirmed on a confirmation hearing. A trial also, this has been, he was convicted for these crimes. So it's really a major contribution to international. So these are some of course, there are others, and I do believe that the recent conviction of Dominic Ongwen also, it's quite an impressive work. So there are still a few. Of course, we have the challenges, as you said, but there are a few cases already that we can be very proud of during my tenure.
Thank you, Fatou. And just for the audience who may not know, so part of the challenge, right, in Nidaganda is these people are abducted and taken into these rebel armies, and then all of a sudden they're getting treated as if they were combatants when in fact they're victims of crimes. So I think it was a really significant achievement, and I really admire the office for being willing to not push the envelope, but stand up where principle was necessary. And that was true, as we heard from many of the state's parties when you left, on the geographic jurisdiction of the court too, especially in the Myanmar, Bangladesh situation.
Absolutely.
Where
Absolutely.
there was a question.
I think, yeah, you're right, Leila. I believe that Myanmar was also something that the office can be proud of. Again, okay, I wouldn't use push the envelope, but I think the fact that we were able to at least argue before the judges that ICC could potentially have jurisdiction in the situation in Myanmar, having argued that the crime of deportation, even though it starts from Myanmar, only crystallizes when they cross an international border and into Bangladesh, which is a state party. So the crime is completed on the territory of a state party, and this the judges agreed, and I was able to open investigations in the situation in Myanmar. And I also think that just before I left, the opening of the situation in the Philippines is also another important situation that we have. I mean, today also, with respect to Colombia, I have seen that my successor has decided to close the Colombia situation, but I also want to commend the office for what we have done in Colombia. I think that if it comes to this stage today, it is because of the fantastic work that we did with Colombia, working very closely and also being encouraging them for domestic systems, domestic jurisdictions, such as the jurisdiction for peace, to be established and for them to start looking into those situations at the domestic level.
Yes, thank you so much. And maybe that brings, Jennifer, you had a question for the prosecutor, and then we'll turn to maybe some of our audience questions.
Yes, prosecutor, thank you for your amazingly inspiring remarks. I wondered if you might have advice for the new prosecutor as he sets out in a long term. It is a 9-year term. Do you have any words of wisdom? I think some of the highlights of what you've achieved. Would you have advice for him?
Well, I mean, I don't know whether this advice will be accepted, but what I can say is that not under any circumstances should one bow to any kind of pressure in executing the work of the office. I think this is critically important. The only consideration as prosecutor that we should continue to have is the law, the evidence, the interest of victims, and not because attempts will be there. Attempts will be made all the time to try and influence the office, and not based on the law or not based on our legitimate criteria that we have to apply. So in that regard, one has to continue to show steadfastness and to know that this court was created for a purpose, and that too, it is for accountability, the interests of victims, to ensure that we apply the law objectively and fairly. This is what I would say.
Yeah, I suppose the difficulty, right, is that it will never end if you,
Yes.
yeah, it will never end.
No.
It's like Yeah. So we have a question from a young person in the chat about what advice you would give to young people if they might want to become an international prosecutor one day. I know many of my own students look at the international prosecutors with great reverence and wonder how they got there. And tell us a little bit about your journey and what advice you would give to them, Fatou.
I would say, Leila, that one has, first and foremost, stay committed to what you have decided that is the field you want to pursue. To stay committed, to also be able to equip yourself. And by that I mean to make sure that the qualifications, develop the expertise that is needed, and to remain focused and dedicated to this course. Speaking for myself, I can say that once I determined at a very early age that this is what I wanted to do, I gave it my full concentration. I gave it, and I also ensured that really it is something that is in my heart. It is a field that I wanted to make a difference, and therefore it needed also a lot of work throughout, unrelenting. And I believe that as students, we need to have that commitment. We need to have that devotion for this kind of field. It's not an easy one, but as I say, it's a worthwhile one. It is one that is very, very important for humanity. And one has to always have that focus in mind and to move in that direction.
Yeah, it reminds me of a saying that success is 99% perspiration and 1% inspiration, right? So so hard work and maybe seeking out people that can help you find the right path, and finding like-minded people that can help sustain you on the path when it becomes difficult, right?
I completely agree, Leila. I completely agree, because I mean, this is a field, in fact, in which now today we really have stars that are there, that are willing to help, that are willing to mentor, and that have gone through, people like yourself that are very knowledgeable in what is in this field, because it is your field, it is what you've devoted your life to. And I know that you will not hesitate to assist young and up and coming students who are also in this field. So they should seek out that mentorship as well.
Yeah, thank you. So Jennifer, I think there are a couple more questions in the Q&A in the chat. Do you want to?
I see, yeah, sure. I see one. It's coming from Ezekiel Jimenez, who would like to congratulate Prosecutor Bensouda for the award and ask, what is needed from the ASP to enhance cooperation and appropriately resource the court moving forward?
Cooperation, Jennifer, is critically important in the work of the court. As you know, it's one of the pillars that we have to complementarity and cooperation. So I have seen firsthand that if cooperation is lacking, this can bring the case down. This can really collapse the case. So it is critically important that we seek for cooperation. We put in place mechanisms in which cooperation can be facilitated. States parties have to pay more attention to this issue. I know that there has been several instances in which states parties have actually found it difficult to cooperate with the court, and for us to be able to advance our investigations. So I think that even though now I know there are committees that have been set up and working groups that have been set up to work on cooperation, they should do so jointly with the participation of the Office of the Prosecutor or the court, as in fact, all of the court, to talk about what are the most effective ways that can be put in place for this, for cooperation to take place. Because without it, we have seen cases in which this has caused the cases to collapse.
And do you have any words to convince the ASP to give the court adequate resources?
Jennifer, this was like a national anthem for me. Every time, every time that I spoke with the states parties, I was constantly telling them that the office, the court needs resources to be able to do what it is set up to do. The consequences that we have seen for not having the adequate resources were unfortunate, really, because in some instances we have been forced to shelve some cases. Some instances we just did not want to take the first step, knowing that we would not be able to come through with it because we will not have the resources. And what this created was, for instance, we have been accused of being biased. I always cite the Cote d'Ivoire case, in which in that situation, we started with Cote d'Ivoire 1, but could not even make much progress in Cote d'Ivoire 2 because of lack of resources. This is just one example. And consequently, until I left, Cote d'Ivoire 2 was advancing, but in a very, very slow pace. And what people from outside would see is that the OTP was only focusing on one side of the conflict and not the other, when this in reality was not the case. So these are the kind of perception that it can create against the court, and to make the court be criticized for doing victor's justice, if I may call it, and not. So the resources are important. When we started, you can see that the budget that was given to OTP and where we are today, we had one case, and the budget that was given is not much different from now, when we have about 10 cases or over 10 cases on the case docket. So logically, it does not even make sense that we are forced to continue with that budget, which was not adequate at all. So states parties should really think about this and assist the office going forward for the adequate resources to be provided, so that this office, what it was set out to do, will be able to do it, and to do it effectively. It is important for that.
Thank you. We only have about 1 minute, but there's several questions. I'm sorry, we won't have time for all of them, but somebody did ask about the victims. And I know that's near and dear to your heart, Fatou. What can be done more to help them through the process, in terms of reparations, et cetera? Just maybe we'll end thinking about the victims, because I know that's where you start from always.
Yeah. Always, Leila, that's where I start from, because I truly believe that the victims are the raison d'etre, the reason why this court was set up. This is true. And it will be meaningless for them not to be able to benefit from the actions of the office. It simply does not, it's not the way we need to go about it. We have to always have the interests of the victims uppermost on our minds, and to put in place ways in which we are able to help them. Already, as you know, in the framework of the court, there is the VPRS. There are various bodies that are already there. So, and I think the intention has been very good, to be able to get directly to the victims. That is one area that we need to, again, focus more on. Not just the OTP, but the court. We need to get more closer to the victims and the affected communities, and to listen to them, to listen to their stories, and to be able to bring those stories, make them alive before the judges, and to help them. Their participation is also very important, and I think we've made very good advances in that area, that for victims to participate. The protection of victims is also important, critically important, because some of them may fear coming forward, that because they know that there would be repercussions if they do so. But if they are well protected, that would really assist in them giving us their stories, for which we, as you know, is what we turn into the evidence before the judges. So this close interaction with the victims, reaching out to them as closely as possible is critically important, and to know their interest and to know what really would make them feel that justice has been done in their case. I mentioned the situation in Darfur, which was the last ones that I visited. I mean, until today, I just feel so touched by the way that the victims in Darfur were looking to this court. We're looking to what we can do for them. And also the fact that I was able to listen firsthand to most of them on what they really have suffered, I believe is important for the situation in Darfur. So this is really what we have to do. We have to have at the back of our minds always that this court was set up for the victims of these crimes. And we have to put them front and center in the work that we're doing.
Thank you so much. I think with that very eloquent testimonial to why the ICC exists, what its raison d'etre is, and Fatou, you've just been an amazing, not only ambassador for the court, but prosecutor. You've stood up for the victims. I always said if I was a victim, I'd want you in my corner because I know that they were well served by you and your absolutely fierce dedication to the values and of your office and the hard work. So I hope you're now getting some well-deserved rest. Thank you so much for agreeing to kick off and keynote our morning today. And please, the award is the very least that we could have done. I wish we could all give you a giant group hug and thank you in person, because really what you have done is so significant and so important. So thank you again. Thank you again. Yeah. And now everybody, we are going to move. Yes, thanks. Please join me in thanking the prosecutor and a virtual round of applause. We're going to move from this Zoom room to a different Zoom room for our 99th annual members meeting. You don't have to be a member to come. Madeline George has put the link in the chat. So I will close this session and we will move to another virtual room for another session, and maybe grab a cup of coffee if you're like me and it's early in the morning. Grab a cup of coffee and join us next door. So thank you again, Fatou. So lovely to see you, and you inspire us always.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you,
Thank you, Jennifer.
Grateful. Thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody.